Incel, QAnon, 4chan, Snyder Cut motherfuckers want to get on a line now? Anybody?
So DJ is 100% responsible for this. And I mean that in the positive sense. I've covered Chuck Dixon a little bit before. The first time I covered him was whenever I did a little digging to find out where this narrative about the manga being against comics or something and doing better. I was like, where the hell did this start? Like, who said this? You know what I mean? Because I was trying to, and I do this all the time for any chuds watching. I literally do try to see if some of the claims that you're making have any merit, man. It's not like I'm just like against you because I'm against you. Like I was like, wait, is this true? And I look and I'm trying to chase stuff down to its original source because that's, you know, what I do. And then I basically chased it down to an interview that Chuck Dixon did, where he first, as far as I can tell, is the first one to kind of frame things that way. This is a post from Reddit, and it's very well written. 11 months ago.
I say it's fairly recent. I mean, that's less than a year-ish.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Because I don't think he's done much since then other than the stuff he's doing for Rippaverse at the moment.
Hey, callback. I understood that reference. So do you have any experience with Chuck Dixon at all? Just reading his comics, maybe?
I mean, just the stuff he's done, like the Batman stuff. And you know, I do some of his older stuff. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I just really remember from Batman primarily.
Yeah. Oh, I also did a stream on Friday night not too long ago where we looked at his comic book, Alt Hero Q, which, you know, there's a reason I spelled his name with a Q in the thing. If you're not aware, he's QAnon. He's straight up Q-pilled. And it's yeah, he published, I think there's like 2 or 3 issues, but it was never completed because I think something happened like the election that maybe got in the way of, you know, maybe the wind in his sails kind of died down. Yeah, anyway, so the post is called Dicks on, Dicks off. As in Dixon, Dicks off. Or how to be so prudish and sexist it makes your characters gay. And that's just, what? How can that? Well, we'll take you there. I'll feed you.
This
baby
person
bird.
has a way with words. This person that wrote this post. So
wait, what is this? This mobile header? Oh no. Okay, we're off to a good start. So this is Alfred. It says, Master Bruce. Do you know what this is? I have a suspicion. Is this from an actual comic though?
Yeah, I mean it has to be. I'm guessing.
Doing the
the bats and the bees. I love that one. It's a good one.
The bats and the bees. Women are gross and icky, right? So the best thing for sober, well-muscled, all-American boys to do is to avoid them entirely and press their latex-clad bodies against one another. And wait, what in all of the fucks? Meet Chuck Dixon. Dixon is a pretty solidly in the B squad of comic book writers. He could never hope to hold a candle to industry giants like Grant Morrison, Stan Lee, or Alan Moore, but his runs on the Punisher and the Bat Family were generally, pretty popular and shaped much of how we view them today. He's the guy who created Bane, who is now one of Batman's most iconic villains, as well as Stephanie Brown, the girl who was Robin for like 2 seconds, then died. He's known for putting out a lot of comics to the point where he pretty much ran the entire Bat Family for a while. And in fact, he is the most prolific Batman writer there ever has been. He's written more Batman comics than anybody, which is crazy. But yeah, he was a workhorse, apparently. However, as you may have guessed from him being a straight white conservative man writing comics in the 90s, or the fact that he's on this sub, this is a subreddit is
it's a hobby sub.
Hobby drama. Okay.
Yeah.
He had some opinions. After leaving DC in 2008, Dixon wrote a Wall Street Journal piece titled How Liberalism Became Kryptonite for Superman. So let's take a look at his Wall Street Journal piece, because it's kind of telling. There was a reason I call him the bastard father of Comicsgate, because he is definitely Comicsgate, and he also was kind of like proto Comicsgate, right? Like he was saying a lot of this shit in old man terms years ago. I mean, not really, man. he's not a legend. Like if you're calling Chuck Dixon a legend, what do you call people who are actually legends? You know, you got to have a lower tier, right? And even still, he fell off, man. Like he's not, you know, I don't know. He's not someone worth praise, honestly. I'll finish reading this paragraph for now. So yeah, how liberalism became kryptonite for Superman, because if there's anything that an illegal immigrant investigative journalist who spent the Depression beating up rich people, if there's anything he hates, it's liberal politics. Which is just, you know, if you guys have seen my Superman video, if you have, thank you. If you haven't, you should check it out. It's literally my second favorite video I've ever done.
So the article that I sent you just now covers that particular thing.
Okay.
So it might have some information there.
Cool. But yeah, it's Superman in the very first comics that there are. His first appearances, he was doing stuff like beating up slumlords and, you know, breaking teenagers out of prison who had been kind of like unjustly put there for slave labor. He was beating up dudes who were abusing their wives. He was doing leftist shit. You know, his causes were progressive causes for at the time, and still progressive causes. So, and then also he was created by two Jewish men who their parents were immigrants to America, and that was definitely a big part of the, you know, the idea that he is anti-liberal, right? Is, I don't know how the guy justifies that to himself, but yeah. So the Wall Street Journal published an editorial from Chuck Dixon, whose 80-issue run on Detective Comics and near 100 issues of Nightwing, just to name a few titles, made up a substantive chunk of DC's output in the 90s. His co-writer, artist Paul Revoche, accused contemporary comics of giving way to moral relativism. So, in the 900th issue of Action Comics, Superman decides to go before the United Nations and renounce his U.S. citizenship. Truth, justice, and the American way. It's not enough anymore, he despairs. That issue, published April 2011, is perhaps the most dramatic example of modern comics' descent into political correctness, moral ambiguity, and leftist ideology. Yeah, so then they talk about the 1950s and the CCA, the Comics Code Authority, and the stamp. And if you guys saw any of the coverage we did on Fabcast about the Comics Code, one of the primary things that it had an effect on was any kind of gay representation. And that just now in the last few years have mainstream comics begun to make up for a lot of lost time.
Yeah, I mean, 2011 was really when we started to see major changes in characters, because even the ones that came out in the early 2000s were still very subtle compared to what we have now. So yeah.
I mean, you know, the X-Men books have been doing a lot of the heavy lifting the last couple of years. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yep. That's funny. I was just talking to my girlfriend about Watergate last night and how that was like the moment that basically killed anybody's, you know, optimism with politics actually being something that could, you know, work.
It was a peek behind the curtain, basically. Mm-hmm. And yeah,
it was like JFK, you know, being assassinated was like the death of innocence. The idea that you could have like a someone you could truly, you know, believe in or whatnot. And then you had Obama, who I you know, I was tricked. That doesn't make any sense. The American dream is better than a better tomorrow.
I would say that a better tomorrow encompasses the American dream. I mean, the idea that something wants to be all encompassing does not take away from the individual things that you believe are good. I mean, a better tomorrow means a better tomorrow for everybody. Living in this country right now, I can tell you it's not, you shouldn't be dreaming about America. Like, it's not the perfect place. Trust me.
Do you know what the American dream was, Jaleel? And I say was intentionally because it is no longer a thing that anybody can reasonably have. It's basically, if you still think that's the thing, then it's more like an American delusion. Because, you know, it used to be the idea that if you work, you get a job, you work hard, you know, you can afford a car, you can afford a house, you can afford to kind of build a future for yourself, you can save money, and you can get a line of credit, and you can just, you know, you can have a decent, you know, nobody's guaranteeing you get rich, but, you know, it was the idea that you could have a pretty decent life. And it's like nowadays, like kids now have no future, man. and like, and I've got one, so like I understand. It fucking sucks to think about that, like the first generation, and I don't know how long, that doesn't, our parents, my generation's parents, left us with nothing essentially, and then now we've been scraping by, and then we're going to give our kids even less, just generally speaking. And like, as some people have pointed out, my kids starved to death because I can't afford to feed them. You know what I mean?
Right. I would say the American dream is built on a foundation of supremacy and heteronormity. That's what I think it is. It's this idea that you need to have a white picket fence in a neighborhood with all these little houses that look the same. You need to have 2 kids and a pet, most likely a dog, because you always see the dog in the pictures or whatever. 1 boy, 1 girl, apply to gender binary norms, and go to work until you retire and die. That's what the American dream is. I don't subscribe to that at all.
And Bob is absolutely right here. Shut up, Bob. No, he's absolutely right, because, and this is what I tell my kid. This is what I tell anybody that I'm like, that's wanting advice or that like is beating themselves up because of mistakes or whatever. And it's like, you literally just try better tomorrow. That's the only thing at the end of the day, the literal only thing as human beings that we can do is try better tomorrow than we did today. And we're going to fuck up and we're going to make mistakes and stuff. But like, yeah, you should always try harder, try better. But I mean, the system in which we exist does create some limits.
Also, I think it really sucks to imagine that you live in a place where you have to want to go somewhere else because everything sucks. That's why I think a better tomorrow is better than just the American dream. If you live in a country where conditions are bad, I want to think that we should be fighting for those conditions to get better instead of having you want to be in America. That's just me. I mean, yeah. I want everybody to live in an area that's good for them socially and emotionally and stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think I've said that 3 times now. At the end of the day, conservatives, even the most vile ones, I don't want them to suffer. You know what I mean? And it's actually pretty tragic. I can't really focus on that because they're actually wanting, to kill people. But like at the end of the day, they are victims of propaganda and failed systems and stuff like that. And essentially they're just gullible enough to be able to they have people pointing them in the direction of other working class Americans and blaming them for all their problems and distracting them from the actual problems. And that sucks. Fuck them. But like at the same time, it really would be cool if we could all realize that together we,
And I know people didn't like it last time I said this, but we've all been propagated to. A lot of our society is built around lies and conditioning and things like that. Sure. I mean, it's just finding a way to circumvent it and try not to let it get you down too much, I guess.
All right, we got to get on this this Dixon.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Dix it.
Let's Dix it. All right, so he wrote that article. He claimed his conservative views in this article. He claimed his conservative views lost him his job at DC in the early 2000s, which is wild since on his blog at the time, which he has since deleted, he specifically countered the rumor that it has to do with politics. And yeah, it's deleted, but then there's this Wayback Machine. So I'm kind of confused on the timeline of some of this, but that's okay. Here's from his blog on the way back. Just to counter nonsense I've seen reported, I did not quit. I do not believe it had anything to do with politics. My involvement with Robin ends, so he says here it's not to do with politics. And this was 2008. But apparently he now says it was, or yeah. This is what happens with grifters and liars. Let's see. So, not to mention, Dixon was far from the only writer at the time who was fired to make way for the new generation. Dixon also called out other artists for involving liberal politics in their work, which was deliciously ironic, given how he crammed his comics with his own political and social views. Those ranged from a variety of opinions on proper social standards, which we'll explore throughout this write-up, as well as randomly stopping the story to take potshots at Jimmy Carter and the Clintons. Which it's got. But one of the best things about this is he's got receipts for pretty much everything that he mentions.
Yeah.
So here's, I guess, where he takes shot at Carter.
What did Jimmy ever do to you?
Okay, I don't know the context there, but it's probably good. Who knows? Maybe I'll know the context here. This joke had 2 pages of lead up and still came out of nowhere. They'll leave eventually and we can forget about them. That's what they said about the Clintons.
Oh.
Wah, wah.
But no politics. It's a no politics thing. Like they're not supposed to be injecting that stuff in there.
It's the best example. I mean, it's a good example of like how these people always say that, but then it's because they think that their views are the norm and that means it's okay, you know? Like, whereas anything outside of what they think, that's politics. That's not politics when I say that. That's just commenting on reality kind of thing. He has described his political affiliation as far to the right of Genghis Khan. So take that as you will. Okay. That's true. They have. I mean, when so Superman was the first real comic book that was like all new story, right? And like I said, like I've covered in that video, you can go watch it. It was political. Captain America punching Hitler on the cover, like, believe it or not, that's political.
And the thing is, I don't have an issue with politics in comics. It's just
me either.
You know.
He also has a history of having a lot of plots deal with the heroic white Americans going over a crime-infested, impoverished Asian, African, or Latin American nation in order to stop the disgusting criminals there. Who are the criminals? Everyone, besides the occasional child who gets murdered. The racism wasn't subtle. Also, there was a weird thing about slavery, a slavery ring targeting only white people because they were the real victims of slavery. It was weird. Also, there was that time Black Canary accidentally helped take part in an ethnic cleansing, but we don't talk about that.
Wow.
I'd like to, but yeah. But as much as I wish I could say that was somehow a lone instance, he was writing for DC Comics in the 80s and 90s, so none of this really stood out. Also, Dixon reportedly beat the shit out of a classmate in the 60s over an argument about the Joker. It's not really relevant to the rest of the write-up, but it's so deliciously ironic for a man who has spent the past decade whining about sensitivity, so I wanted to include it. I mean, then that's common with chuds too, is like, you know, oh, you're so sensitive, but then it's like they were so reactive to every goddamn thing. All right, so sex, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. One of Dixon's more notable aspects was a heavy opposition to sex. And this is a quote from him. When I was writing Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon's romance, I stayed away from stating that they were in any kind of sexual relationship. You could absolutely imply it, but you could not. But you could just as easily tell yourself that they were saving it for marriage. And for my money, and when I was writing comics and I was writing under the comics code, none of my characters were ever sexually active. So, like, this is him saying how he saw it. Like, even if you interpret it a different way, that's just weird, man. Now, I wrote plenty of scenes where there was a clinch and a fade out, and you could assume that the characters went on to, you know, do the deed. This is his words. But I left that up to the reader. All right, so this has led to DC fans making countless memes about Robin being the boy virgin. So much so that it's become a running joke. Fans stated that the world will end if Tim Drake ever has sex. This even became canon. When Tim finally had sex with Stephanie Brown, the Flash reset the timeline, destroying that universe. Oh my God. This is especially prominent in his run with Tim Drake, where Stephanie Brown, 5-second Robin, got pregnant. Dixon hammered home repeatedly that there was no way Tim Drake could be the father because there was no way the goodest boy could ever do such a disgusting thing as that. Stephanie was also pretty heavily judged during the run, portraying her lustful ways as a moral failing.
Oh, of course.
With Tim even having to give her a lecture on why abortion was wrong. You remember that part about Dixon's social views subtly leaking in. This would become a staple of their relationship under Dixon, Robin being clueless towards improper advances from a darn masked hussy. Even when Tim's girlfriend already directly proposed sex, Tim shut her down hard, or flaccid as it may be. So this is one of the examples here of him. So yeah, whining time's over, okay? That's the boy wonder I love. Sure, you can be giddy. Your problems are solved. for now. I guess you know what I have to do right now. She's like, I think I do. Puckers up. I have to go. I have to say goodbye to the guys at Brentwood.
The guys. He has to go see the guys.
Yeah, this is how it starts to look a little gay. Like if you're so adverse to sex, and then you have your character, you're so adverse to it that you have to have your character say he's going to go hang with the boys every time he turns down sex. It seems obvious what it's going to look like.
Well, not only that, but then it's almost like Chuck Dixon was living vicariously through Robin in this moment. Like, let me turn down sex so I can go hang out with my friends.
Yeah, clueless, absolutely clueless.
Well, it's not even sex, a kiss. It was a kiss.
It was a kiss, literally a kiss. That's it. Just which is like the most. Like, and it talks about in a minute how he just thought that kids shouldn't be exposed. It's like, okay, look, maybe, yes, sex, they shouldn't be having sex scenes necessarily in like comic books that are sold to everybody, but a kiss, people's parents kiss, like, it's, all right. So it was also a major theme when Connor Hawke, Green Arrow's son, with Connor Hawke. Dixon took over the story after another writer who had Oliver be pretty sex positive and introduced Connor, Oliver's illegitimate son from a college fling. The message was not subtle. Oliver was portrayed as womanizing fool for getting a girl pregnant and a dickhead for abandoning the son he never knew about. In contrast, Connor was yet another goodest boy who could never make the same mistake as his father by sexing a vagina.
Oh.
Same as Tim, he was played off as being confused or grossed out by women hitting on him, like when a model offered him a key to her hotel room. And then this is pretty great.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So here he is. This is Connor Hawke. Mr. Arrow, there's a hot girl here. What's this? A key to my hotel room. Thanks, but I already have a room. Bye.
And then he walks away. Just no interest whatsoever. Bye.
Nope. Not even aware of what he just.
You know what's
down.
even more odd as we're looking through these? Why even have the women make a proposition if the character is not going to be interested? Just don't even put that in the book. To
show that there's always going to be these, these predatory women out there just trying to take away your innocence. If you're, you know what I mean? That's
I get it. What I'm saying that is a little facetiously because obviously he's doing it to inject his own narrative about like how he sees relationships and things like that. But he does it in such a weird way because he could simply just not put it in there. Like he created these problems for himself by doing this.
This next one is a trip. I didn't know about this. So funny enough, Dixon also decided to retcon Bruce Wayne's womanizing reputation. In Detective Comics number 711, he reveals that Wayne has stood up every beautiful date he ever had, and that the women were just too ashamed to admit it.
Of course they were.
So they lied about having sex with him.
Because women, I mean, it's basically the whole idea of painting women as liars. Women are harlots and liars and lie about hooking up with guys.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, you can't trust them. Yeah, wow. Yeah, oh my god, that's disgusting. Where are those predatory propositioning women? Just where are they at so I can look out for them, right? And then this section is called These Bitches Be Gay. Good for them. In news that surprises absolutely no one, creating male characters who would talk about how disgusting sex with a woman was made people think that they were gay. This was helped along by the fact that Chuck Dixon was utterly incapable of writing anything without a lot of homoerotic subtext, all of which he was blissfully unaware of. Most of Dixon's writing is pretty heavily hoye, which is, I don't know what that means. Do you?
It's homo something. What is it called?
Oh.
I'll click on it and see. Homoeroticism, yay. It's like a trope from TV. Like basically what queer baiting is. Pretty much, yeah.
This is especially prevalent in his run on Birds of Prey, where Barbara and Dinah have a lot of subtext. For example, Dinah would call Barbara honey or girlfriend while touching her every chance she got. Also, there was a moment when Huntress was trying to sacrifice herself to Dinah, to save Dinah, talking about how Dinah should survive because she's meaningful and charming and pretty, and you get the picture. Running through a few examples out of many. Dinah deliberately walks in on Nightwing in the shower. Her excuse? She thought he was Barbara.
What?
Barbara provides Dinah with a skimpy dress to seduce a man and mysteriously knew her exact size.
Oh.
She then spends the whole seduction talking about how shit he is and how Canary is far too good for him.
Wow.
In one scene, Barbara refers to sending Dinah on dangerous missions as endangering her heart.
Oh.
Dinah refers to Barbara's mission briefing as the sexy part.
Oh.
In a Nightwing comic,
why would you even use that statement if you're so prudish? That doesn't even make sense. Okay.
I mean, I don't, because that's probably how he thinks of it. That's how he like if you read his
so
Alt
he
Hero
thinks
2
of
comic,
women as like sexual predators, basically.
Mhm.
Like they're very predatory and they're always thinking of lustful stuff, but the guys are not.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's there's a reason I called this Chuck Dixon crazy person. This string, because this shit is cray. Let's see. In a Nightwing comic, Dick wakes Barbara up, revealing that Canary had slept over in the same bedroom with only a shirt on.
Okay.
At one point, Barbara asks Dinah, "How we making out?" Power Girl reveals that she had worked with Barbara, called Barbara Dinah's girlfriend, and asked, "Did you really think you were her first partner?"
Oh, what?
This panel, which is hilariously followed by this panel. Okay, so let me pull these open. And
Oh gosh, I'm afraid of what this is going to be.
Okay, wow. They were, they were friends. As a historian, I can conclusively say that they were gal pals. So Barbara Gordon, so the commissioner was your dad? Uh-huh. So who's Batman? Robin? Nightwing? And they're just like, wow.
What is this? What is this? Like, this isn't even.
I know girls who are close and friends, and yeah, they get touchy with each other, in various ways and stuff, but not
this
like
is flirting. This is flirting to me.
Prolonged. This is like getting more intense as each panel goes along. Yeah. Whew.
And what panel, what came after this?
There's
no explanation. That was the following panel. Oh my god.
All right. We still got some stuff to dig into here. Do you want to read some?
Yeah, sure.
So
this became so blatantly obvious that fan boards and the comic letter pages began filling up with fans questioning if this was Dinah moving on from her ex Green Arrow and finally getting with someone new. Dixon became so pissed off at the fans shipping his characters that he'd literally write messages to his artist to make the art as platonic and non-sexual as possible, resulting in notes like this one. So this is Chuck Dixon's note to his artist. Panel 4. Canary crouches and holds Oracle to her. Oracle is curled in a fetal position and dripping wet. The more drama you can squeeze from this, the better. We're going for the piata as opposed to anything that hints of the sexual. The scene is apparently ripe for misinterpretation or overinterpretation by some of our readers. So basically acknowledging that the readers are shipping these characters. And then let me pull this up over here. There's a panel here that I want to show on screen. It goes, this resulted in the artist rebelling, creating what may be the single gayest thing I've ever seen. So let's do this here. The single gayest thing. So, but yeah, this is the single gayest thing. So I want to deliver this one. All right, here we go.
Fair.
All right. Oh God, this panel. Oh, this is a good one. Right here. Barbara. Call me Barbara. This is the seed here that was supposedly that he didn't want it to look too sexual or for it to be misunderstood. Literally, let me just describe this for you. It's the two of them sitting in a big puddle of water because she just pulled her out of the water.
They're both just sopping wet.
Yeah. And I think I never know how to pronounce his last name. Is it Judice? Jackson?
Jackson go. I don't know. Sure, I don't know.
I never ever know how to pronounce that one. Anyway, so that was the panel that they did to for that there, and it says this became a trend with artists getting annoyed by Dixon's. So the artists are getting annoyed at this point by Dixon's sexism, homophobia. Which, by the way, I'm glad they used that word because we've been reading through this, and clearly he's been sort of downplaying all of the other stuff that's happening. But the fact that they are calling it out as homophobia and general douchebaggery, making his panels various shades of sexual. Dixon also tried desperately in the comics themselves to emphasize very low, super duper extra straight as they were, which resulted in scenes like Barbara talking about dating Nightwing as she slaps Dinah's ass. Damn, 90s writers really didn't understand how women talked. Talking about Chuck Dixon there. Also, that half naked ass slap was all we saw of them until they came out of the same bedroom together hours later. Holy shit.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like, I wish I had the time to go through and like get the digital versions of all these issues and just like kind of build a compilation video of all of it. That'd be hilarious. Yeah.
You want to take the next part?
Well, I mean, this actually about,
you want me to do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dixon might actually be a bad guy. Gasp. After Dixon left DC, although he'd return occasionally here and there. So this is after he was like gone as a regular writer. His views became more and more well known, and hoo boy, he doesn't do anything halfway. I want to pull this up here, this panel here. This is his iBlog. So this is actually from 2010. Actually, we don't have to show this because I think they go through it here. When Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed, Dixon penned a homophobic screed announcing that it would cause unintended consequences for generations to come. And this is actually from his page. I'm not going to show it on screen, but because I don't think there's anything. Yeah, I'm not going to read through his. As well as stating, and the demonizing will continue as the negative impacts of this new policy or lack of one began to arise. Anyone pointing out the consequence of this vote will be shouted down as a homophobe and have their reputation attacked. Well, rightfully so.
He actually said homophone.
Oh, did he?
Just because it's irrelevant for a joke that the writer makes here in a second.
Oh, but yeah, homophone. Got it. Right. Okay. And have their reputation. Is that verbatim for him, though? I wonder if that was actually what he wrote in his blog. I would not be surprised, though. All right. A homophone, like how your name is Chuck, but Chuck is also what people do with your comics. This writer's too good. I corrected what I thought was a misspelling, but it was on purpose. And the issue really has nothing to do. This is Chuck again speaking. And the issue really has nothing to do with homosexuals. Really? I mean, I would assume it has everything to do with homosexuals. It's
literally, the whole thing is that.
The whole issue of gays in the military. Well, you said it wasn't about gays, but it says the whole issue of gays in the military is a Trojan horse to allow more liberal social engineering into our armed services. So it's not about actual gay people. They're plants as a Trojan horse to force liberal policies, I guess.
Hey, well, hold on. Yeah. How much did you get paid for that, and why are you still pretending?
I know. It's, I guess I'll have to turn over my taxes.
Yeah.
They finally broke in the Marines, who will have to follow this new non-policy without question or modification. Well, I mean, isn't that the military in general, though? Like, everything you do in the military, for the most part, is following orders. Like whether you agree or don't agree with them. And I guess that would go for any political ideology that you might have, whether you're libertarian, conservative, Democrat, whatever you might be, Republican. Anyway, that's a huge victory for the left, but it could have done it without vegan, vegetarian.
Yeah.
Vegan, vegetarian. Do we not understand those are two different things? They're not. You can't put them together like that. That's like saying a vegan meat eater. It doesn't work. Anyway, and the writer says, I have no words. All right. It says, Dixon also went off on a rant on his blog about homosexuality, homophonosexuality. He managed to delete it, but this quote survives. So this is from a deleted blog post. I don't want to expect to be able to shield my kids from the subject of homosexuality, as the media seems intent on bringing it into my home, and nothing short of cutting the electricity and boarding the windows will stop it. Sounds like homophobia is what that sounds like. He says, but I don't want, and he capitalized that, but I don't want my kids reading about it in comics. And I don't want Judd Winnick, Green Lantern, or Grant Morrison, new X-Men. I guess that was around the time. Maybe this was when they were writing. Was it 2010 around the time they were writing that? I guess.
Grant Morrison wrote X-Men in the early 2000s.
Okay. So that would have been like back then, I guess. Or the Nimrod who wrote the Rawhide. Oh God, that comic book.
Yeah.
The Nimrod who wrote the Rawhide Kid comic informing my kids about the facets of lifestyle choices. Well, wasn't that who wrote Rawhide Kid? It was a pretty popular writer, I think, if I remember correctly.
I don't know about that run at all.
Okay, so the early 2000s, the Rawhide Kid was relaunched, and he was rebooted to be a queer character. And I do believe, oh gosh, who wrote it? Because it's a pretty popular person. I'm gonna feel stupid now when I look this up.
Was it actually bad or something that what they wrote, or like? I mean,
it was. Hold on, who was it? It was somebody from, I believe, Howard Stern. I remember.
Oh, God.
What
kind of, who made that choice?
I don't remember. Anyway, okay, so the point is that they wrote it and they rebooted it as him being a gay character that always hid that he was gay.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing in it other than stereotypical gay cliche stuff because the writer was not gay. So they rebooted him as a gay character, but then had a straight guy write it. And then they slapped a parental advisory sticker on it, even though there was nothing sexual in it. Literally nothing sexual.
Sounds like early 2000, just common homophobia.
Right. So anyway, the Nimrod who wrote Rawhide Kid comic informing my kids about the many facets of lifestyle choices out there in the world, which, by the way, being gay is not a lifestyle choice. Never believe when somebody says that they're literally uninformed or they're a bigot.
It's not a sexual preference or lifestyle choice.
I'd like to be the one to talk to them about it when they're older and I feel the time is right. Well, I mean, okay. I don't know how you would explain that to them anyway. Okay. I especially object to them using characters familiar to my kids to present. Like, what do you have to tell them?
I was thinking like, son, you're 18 and it's time I told you about, the birds and the birds or something. And
yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I especially object to them using characters familiar to my kids to present this worldview. Could you please leave the Beast and Green Lantern alone? What is that about? Was there something from Beast and Green Lantern that I don't remember anything about them being queer characters, unless I'm completely missing.
They might have been random polls that he wrote.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Anyway, he says, given that the comic in question, this isn't him, this is the writer, I mean, given the comic in question was clearly labeled adult comic, which, by the way, Rawhide Kid was, I just said that. One might question why he was giving it to his children in the first place. One might then question how he had children, given that would require sex.
Yeah, well, they definitely did like a, with the sheet between them and like they didn't enjoy it at all,
Yeah, but the point is that like that Rawhide Kid comic was labeled as an adult only comic, so that does make me wonder like why he would even have his kids reading it. All right, the next part might be good for you because you're more familiar with Comicsgate than I am. So
all right, so. Yeah, there's more here. That link goes to more drama with Dixon and the Rawhide Kid if you want to check that.
Oh, really? Okay. All right, cool. I can give more context on that because I know that.
Well, I mean, if you want to check it out now, like the between what you just read and where the next part starts, that one single sentence, if you want to check out what that is, I can start reading this. We can come back to it maybe.
You mean that single sentence after that or whatever, the write-up? Let me check that out. You can go ahead and do the Comicsgate thing and then I'll pull this up.
Cool. Dixon became, and then it says, somehow it gets worse. Dixon became part of Comicsgate. It's exactly what it sounds like, Gamergate, but for comics. Look, nobody said they were original. There have been past write-ups about it, but you can probably guess the core issues. Internet trolls, white supremacists, and a whole lot of other nasty people harassing creators for heinous crimes like checks notes, including women in comic books. Dastardly. Dixon ended up working with Vox Day, a Nazi. Yes, a Nazi. As in Secure the White Race, as in the guy behind the sad puppies, as in motherfucking Nazi, Vox Day. He's been a part of Comicsgate for years, but when he was revealed as a Nazi, all of them pretended that he hadn't openly stated all those things for decades and disavowed him. Except Chuck doesn't know how to quit. And so he continued working with a fucking Nazi to publish Alt Hero Q. Yes, that Q, the QAnon Q. Chuck Dixon made him a superhero. I'd make another, well, that's not accurate. He didn't make the Q a superhero, but it is a guy that is literally following the orders of Q, who he doesn't know who he is. So like the perfect example of it is that in the first issue, or maybe it's the second issue, beginning of the second issue, at the end of the first one, he's getting messages from some mysterious person. Then he finds out, he's like, what do I call you? Q. And that's how the first issue ends. The second issue, he's literally like on a plane And the guy tells him, the Q tells him, you got to jump out. Or no, sorry, the guy flying the plane's like, how are you gonna do a jump? And he's like, no, I haven't done a jump in years. No way I'm doing a jump. And then he gets a text from Q, you're gonna have to jump. And he's like, bye, and fucking jumps.
Right.
And which is literally the perfect example of people that believe in this stuff. It's like going against any rationality that you had. You listen to Q or whatever the hell, and then anyway, let's see. So I'd make another joke here, but nobody can possibly own Chuck harder than he owns himself. Yes, that's a scene from a Chuck Dixon comic. Let's see.
Oh yeah, it's a Nightwing scene. 100% Aryan American. Oh geez.
Yeah, so he literally has Nightwing kicking the asses of the people that he's allied himself with.
Yeah.
Because okay, so Vox Day, when he keeps calling him a Nazi, he's right. Like, I do not call people Nazis unless they are a Nazi. Like, I'm not talking about like, oh, they loosely have white supremacist views, so I'll call them that. No, it's somebody that literally repeats things that fucking neo-Nazis say that are known for neo-Nazi, or as neo-Nazis are known for.
Mhm.
That's when I call, and he is a fucking Nazi. And he's, published comics with them, at least 2 or 3 issues, I think. Anyway.
So is that the end of that segment there, or no.
Let me see. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so I read through this little piece here that was added in. What this guy's saying here, this post, is that Chuck Dixon and Rawhide Kid, how a famous Batman writer fell from grace. And it kind of goes over a lot of what we just talked about. But here it says, the Kid, originally a character from the 1950s and apparently a favorite of Chuck Dixon's as a child.
Oh.
Had either recently been or was about to be the subject of a controversial, this wasn't even a full run, okay? I didn't realize that. The Rawhide Kid gay story was just a 5-issue miniseries from a mature line of comics called Max. And they reimagined him as being gay. Not in the sense that he ever gets to kiss a man, because that doesn't happen, but in the sense that he's just flaming, which like I said, the guy that wrote it he was just doing cliche stuff.
Yeah.
And the title of it was The Rawhide Kid Slaps Leather. And here was the cover. I'm going to show you the cover of the comic. This was the actual cover of the comic. So, and it says Max Comics. So it wasn't even under.
You gotta share it down at the bottom there. Add to stream.
Right. Yeah, got it. Sorry. There we go. I thought I hit that. Anyway, it's from the Max Comics, and this was specifically for like adults for Marvel. It wasn't even advertised as a Marvel thing. And these were the kind of covers it had. So it was very campy. But it says here in this segment, it's all played as a joke, but in my opinion, a mean one. The punchline is like, ha ha ha, gay man funny. Yeah, and it was bad, but it was very campy. Even the constant asides of moisturizer and criticizing everyone's fashion sense, which he did. He did that in the comic. I read a couple of the issues of it. He's still a lone gunman riding into a town to defend the innocent. For lack of a better word, he played it straight. All of this expected emotional beats for a story are represented and are reasonably well executed. Overall, it's just a romp and it's not serious. Dixon, however, took it very seriously, apparently before it ever hit newsstands. He gave an interview somewhere in which he complained about the inclusion of homosexual characters in comic books, comparing their presence to indoctrinating kids, specifically his children, a phrase he uses repeatedly, to the concept of gay people being like STDs.
Oh, that all. I mean, the last part's fucking what the fuck, but like the before that, it sounds very familiar. Like we've heard that a lot lately or something. That just the existence of and children knowing that people can be gay or are gay makes them gay or whatever.
Yeah. And then it says here, there's one little bit here, then we can move back to the main article. It says he made completely baseless accusations against the book's artist, John Severin, suggesting that he had been tricked into drawing it for gay people. And here's the quote from Chuck Dixon. Am I to understand that John Powers Severin is drawing this wretched piece of exploitational trash? That's a big word for me. John objected to it, I guess, but finally drew a Western story I wrote with an unmarried couple. They were shown together in bed. I guess that's a book that he wrote about. Rawhide Kid.
Suggesting sex in a vagina.
Yeah, so I guess he's saying because John objected to it, that proves that he must have objected to this book as well.
Right.
He said, could he have willingly participated in this? I doubt it very strongly. I'll bet he was handed a plot with no idea what the subject of Rawhide Kid's secret would be revealed in the dialogue.
Or
Um,
there's a world of difference between a guy who says he's gay and makes jokes that are like, a straight man's idea of what a gay man is, and people actually in bed together. Those are completely fucking different things.
yeah.
And
It says here, though, it's never been officially confirmed that this interview got Dixon blacklisted by Marvel specifically, but it would make sense as publishers tend to frown on working with freelancers who falsely accuse them of major ethics violations, which it would be if they're saying that
yeah,
that's what happened. That said, according to Dixon, and only Dixon, what I've been able to find is there was also apparently an editor at DC Comics who happens to be gay and took offense to his statements. This editor brought his complaints to the publisher, who demanded Dixon make an apology. He refused to do so, and he was blacklisted because they always have to be a martyr. That's pretty much
so
what it is.
there you go. Yeah, I mean, so that might be why he had two different answers for the politics thing, right? Like, because
Yeah.
at first he might not have seen it as politics at first, and then maybe he decided to or whatever. Like, it's definitely this is what I mean by he's the bastard father of comics kid. He doesn't get the credit. But he is the prototype in every way, shape, or form. He is a guy who has fucking problematic views, that he couldn't keep his goddamn mouth shut. First of all, he couldn't be a decent human being, but second of all, he couldn't keep his mouth shut. And this shit has consequences, man. As Mark Brooks told me when I interviewed him, he's like, yeah, you can get fired for being a dick, and it's not canceled. It's not, it's not blacklisted. I mean, yeah, blacklisted, I guess is a word for it, but it's not canceled. It's not fired for your politics. It's fired for being an anti-social fucking hate monger.
Mm-hmm.
Which, even if you don't want to consider that, if you want to say that, oh, they're just virtue signaling, okay, fine. But if you're a capitalist, you have to understand their reasoning behind it, because you're going to alienate readers in an industry that it just historically is constantly on a knife's edge, more or less. You know what I mean? Like, there's never been a steady decade of comics. Well, I guess there has been, but not in several decades. It's been just constantly, we're doing great selling these comics. So
Mm-hmm.
like, every reader counts. And yeah, so anyway.
This next part is interesting. I didn't know that Gail Simone and him, like, there was a passing of the
Oh,
torch, I guess, there.
Yeah, there's more Comicsgate stuff I can read if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm familiar with some of this stuff. After Dixon left Birds of Prey, Gail Simone took over the title, creating a truly iconic run that's still talked about today, as well as the definitive version of the team, All True. Funny enough, she actually overshadowed Dixon, with most people forgetting he ever wrote it. That's got to sting, because that's a woman. Simone also heavily continued the Dinah and Barbara hinting, but on purpose. She even encouraged fans to write fanfics about the couple, which, combined with Dixon's influence, means that Babs' Dinah is the third most written ship for Dinah and fourth most for Barbara. Considering the two of them both have a long list of canon relationships, it's pretty impressive. Simone even planned to have a line confirming Dinah as bi in the comic, but the line was cut due to a miscommunication.
I want to say this also before you continue on.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important, especially in this era, for writers and artists to encourage people to also be creative when it comes to these characters. So encouraging fan fiction is something that helps the comic industry, because you get people that get invested in these characters, and they'll be more inclined to continue to buy your products. Yeah. That's why a lot of TV shows try to get the shipping community to really get on board with the shows and movies.
Well, I think there's something that I think is common, even kind of setting aside for a brief second the fucking toxic views, but like, there's something with that generation of comic book creators that I've noticed that like newer comic book creators, they see it, I guess, the right way, in my opinion. But like these, like him, Claremont, as good as he could have been, as legendary as his run is, as much groundwork as he laid, whether or not you liked the writing or not. He whenever I've heard him talk about or seen him do an interview talking about X-Men now and stuff, it's like they have this very personal mine kind of connection to this stuff. And like, and of course now newer generations understand that this stuff is for everyone, and that they're writing comics for, like, yeah, they should enjoy it, and they should care about the characters, but they shouldn't just make decisions about all this stuff just for themselves, kind of thing. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Also, I want to point out that also I think fan fiction comes from people that want to be writers. Like, these are people that may want to one day get into the industry, and they start out, sitting around writing fan fiction, and then it turns into something bigger for them, and they decide they want to do comics. Can you imagine being a fan fiction writer and having someone that you consider to be like Chuck Dixon or any of these other people that you might look up to, all of a sudden shutting you down? Like
Yeah,
it would feel like shit.
yeah.
Never meet
look,
your idols.
I've said before that I don't get fan fiction writing. I don't read it.
It's not for me
I don't
either.
write it.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand that people can have a connection to something that is not anything like what I understand, and I value that connection nonetheless, because I value the connection. Period. And so yeah, it would be pretty fucking heartbreaking. I mean, like, it'd be the same thing if you're a aspiring artist and you do really like try your hardest on a drawing, and then you show it to your favorite artists or whatever on Twitter, and he's like, I don't know, that's not very good. or
yeah, I mean,
you don't have a future.
To be open for the criticism. Basically, you'd have to go into it knowing that you could be told that it's not good. But I think it would be more like having what Chuck Dixon is doing is completely, like, for me, that's not even.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Anyway, it's more like the artist then saying, you don't have a future as an artist.
Right. Shut it down. Like, you wasted your entire life. Go home.
Okay, so let's see where we at. Okay, it ain't no lie, baby. Bye, 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 as in B-I-B-I. And I think they might be doing. Yep, he's doing the same joke I did on my thumbnail about this topic, which is bye, bye, birdie.
Yeah.
In 2021, the Batman Urban Legends series, Tim Drake came out as bisexual and asked one of his classmates, Bernard, on a date. They've been dating in canon ever since. As you might imagine, Chuck Dixon was absolutely pissed at this, and I enjoyed the idea of that. I kind of relished the idea of him being.
Can you imagine how angry he was? Like, this was just a couple of years ago. He was probably stewing.
This was his baby. Tim Drake was his innocent little boy. There's a whole video about it in his Ask Chuck Dixon YouTube series, which I kind of want to watch that.
Yeah, I want to check that out. I'll probably go and watch it sometime this week.
If you want to see how long it is, we might could check it out tonight.
I'll look for it. You keep reading and I'll check it out.
But by introducing this is a quote from that video, I guess. By introducing the idea that a character is gay or bisexual, you're introducing the sexual aspects of it. No, you're not. You're saying the word, and I just don't think it has a place. I know kids don't really read these things anymore, and they're written for adults, but it just seems like a weird way to go. So even he caveats there that, like, his actual kind of like complaint about it isn't even valid, and he's still just like, I don't know, I just don't like it. It's yucky. Just say you're a homophobe without saying you're a homophobe. You were saying, sorry. But it seems like a weird way to go in a medium filled with characters who run around in masks and capes and boots. It just seems like to approach the fetishistic, to explore their sexuality in any way. It's like, what? Fetishist? And again, this is the same thing we see now, where fucking idiots think it's because that's how they see it. They think of gay men, and they're thinking of sex, gay sex and stuff. And it's like
that Chuck Dixon video is like 60 minutes. It's 45 to 50 minutes long, I think. So
never mind. So it's weird to call this a fetish, which it is. Like, oh man, that's hot, kinky shit right there.
Right.
Literally, just like politely asking someone on a date is, it's actually pretty cute. And then this is
right.
Let's see. She's saying, "Are you positioned? Just wow, quite a view, huh?" And then,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Ow, you deserve that. Literally,
yeah.
Fucking holy shit, bound.
Yeah. Right, but innocently on a porch asking someone out on a date, that's a step too far.
You can't let kids see this. You let them see this, and fucking what a dumbass, man.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. He's just a fucking crazy person. So yeah, Dixon also ranted that there may have been gay characters in American comics since the 80s, or there have been gay characters in the comics since the 80s. It's not a new thing. It's not stunning or brave. Is
that where that came from? Stunning or brave? Did he hear that?
Came from South Park.
Okay. I just didn't know if he's the person that made it normalized in vernacular.
No, I mean, I think that somebody said it about, I think it was maybe fucking of all people, what's her name? Goddamn, Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah.
Whenever she came out and stuff.
I want to point out the next line you're about to read is fucking disgusting.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to? Would you rather?
Well, he says here, he goes, it's just changing things for the sake of changing them, which, by the way, is how everything works in the world of writing. Like, it's a dumb fucking statement.
Sorry, yeah, I remember now reading this. Holy shit, dude.
But he goes, I mean, what's next? Hal Jordan is a cannibal? What are they going to do next? So he's comparing a innocent relationship between two characters who happen to be gay or bisexual, whatever it is, to being a cannibal. And we're also talking about fucking comic books where people, like, there are actual cannibal characters in comic books. So what the fuck is he talking about?
I would say that Hal Jordan is actually responsible for more horror and death than he would be if he just ate a couple of people, honestly.
Yeah.
When he was
I
paralyzed.
mean, this is just dumb. And the sake of changing things for changing them, that's how all progress happens. Like, that's how writing works.
Yeah. Man, that's just an upsetting fucking thing. That really gives you a kind of pulls the curtain wide open on how he views.
Who the fuck sees two other people that are like, think about this for a second. Being gay or being trans or being someone from another ethnicity or whatever, all of those things are people just existing in the same world as you. Seeing them and going, oh, that's just like being a cannibal. That's fucking disgusting. Like, it just is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we're almost to the end here, and this next part is actually at least kind of makes up in a karmic way a little bit.
Yeah.
Additionally, Connor Hawke, whose character he created, came out as asexual in DC's Pride Month issue. So, I mean, in a way that kind of like, supports what he would want. But
I mean, that's exactly what he wants, an asexual character. So,
but they're making fun of. They have to be kind of like,
yeah.
He explains that he never felt romantic attraction. Or while he felt romantic attraction, he never really had any desire to have sex with people. Dixon has so far stayed quiet on it, which hasn't stopped fans from making memes about him. And then how could I forget that Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain were heavily implied to be roommates in a future comic. So Dixon may be having a third heart attack soon enough.
What the fuck? Wait, did he have a heart attack?
I don't know.
I don't want to laugh at that. I don't wish harm on anybody. I thought
No.
I thought maybe that's a joke on his reaction to Tim Drake. So
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know if it was literally he has had 2 heart attacks or if he's just each one of these instances.
Yeah. If it's a joke about his reaction to Tim Drake, then I'll laugh about it. I feel good about it.
Oh no, it's real.
Okay. All right.
I think. Or is this no? See, I still can't tell if it's a joke or not on this Reddit post. So DC Comics,
I'll give a half laugh, a 50% laugh on that one. Committed 100%. So.
DC Comics Circle Jerk. We're getting reports that Chuck Dixon has been hospitalized after experiencing cardiac arrest. # Rip Bozo. Connor Hawke. Yeah, I mean that seems like a joke if he hasn't actually commented on it, but I don't know. I can't tell. An all Ace creative team is finally making some obvious subtext into canon.
You know, it actually makes sense. Like, even if they're doing it to sort of get back at him, based on the way that he wrote Connor, it makes sense.
It honors him in a way.
Yeah.
But I mean, like even mentioning it, that is against him very much so. Like he does mentioning how he doesn't have sex is against.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. I'm not going to sit here and read these. Sorry. Who knows what kind of shit's in there?
Yeah, we finally at the end, and then we get to see here. It says, fortunately, in 2022, Chuck reached out to his fans and made an apology straight from his heart. Get ready for this one. He gotten so wrapped up in bigotry and hate, he lost sight of what made heroes good. Their willingness to look out for the oppressed and downtrodden. It wouldn't be perfect, and he could never undo the harm he'd done, but he was slowly moving towards being the man fans believed him to be.
That's nice.
Who the fuck am I kidding? He's writing about a girl with a Confederate flag cape who deports immigrants.
Of course.
So at the end of the day, I guess the moral of the story is simple. If you want quality queer characters, hire the most homophobic fucker possible.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Like everything he's touched has become queer. There it is. That's the notorious Gamergate created comic or whatever. Oh, Vox Day was associated with that. I didn't even realize that. So.
Yeah, that's who the Nazis we're talking about was.
Yeah.
Well, there's one last little addendum here. It's called Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, it's finally over. A few days ago, and a little voice in the back of my mind went, you know what would be great if you finished all 3 of those write-ups you've been working on for a while. And let's see. Okay, never mind. This isn't actually relevant to the thing, but yeah, thank you nonetheless for all of the work you put into it. And I'll probably check out the other 2 at some point. And if you're a comic book writer, creator, like we kind of suspect, reach out, say hi.
Yeah.
I'll keep your secret.
Yeah, so people ask me like why I don't support. This is one of the questions I get all the time about Eric July, because I typically talk about the stuff when it comes to queer centric stuff that he does, is hiring someone like Chuck Dixon, who does have this history of being this way when it comes to queer characters, and then defending transphobia from people that are on his staff, means that I could never, even if I wanted to sort of try out his comics or whatever, he's already telling me that I am not the kind of customer that he wants. You know, he's putting out that signal, that bat signal, you know, to talk about Chuck Dixon, to say, we don't want queer people to feel comfortable reading our comics because we employ people who have done harmful things to the queer community and said harmful things about the queer community. I don't want to buy comics from a writer who compares being queer to being a cannibal. That's just, you know, that's not really on my list of things I want to support. So, and it's also quite funny when people get mad about that, knowing that it comes from a community that won't see Across the Spider-Verse because Gwen Stacy has a trans flag. As Dana said, they wouldn't have standards if they didn't have double standards. So, the hypocrisy.